Hi, if you're listening or watching, this is the Mito podcast. I am Ashley.
And I'm Megan.
And today we are going to talk to you about IHSS. Now, Megan has gone through the process before. I have not. So I thought that this would be a really good topic for us to go over because it's one of those little hidden gems that a lot of people don't know about. And I didn't know anything about it. Sorry, my cat. One of these days, we're gonna get through a podcast, and he's not gonna be here yelling at me. But it's important. It's an important resource. Not everyone qualifies for it, but it's better to have the information than to not have the information. So I guess we should start off by saying, do you know what IHSS stands for?
Yes, I do. It's in-home supportive services. And like you said, it is a hidden gem because Troy obviously qualifies for it, and we didn't know about it until he was about 10 years old. And the only way I heard about it was from another mother who had also heard about it and was registering her girls. And I was at that point, just a little background story, I was getting ready to stop teaching so that I could stay home and take care of Troy full time. And, it's going from two incomes down to one. It was a little bit of a stressful situation, and I didn't even know this program existed. And then we found out, and fortunately, it has very much helped to supplement our income. So it's one of those things out there that you may not necessarily know unless you are in a little network and you have other, families that have children. And actually, this program itself was meant for adults. It was primarily set up for adults. And so bringing children into it is actually, I don't know when they started approving children, but it's a little bit newer.
So we haven't actually explained. We told you guys IHSS. We told you what it stands for, but we didn't actually tell you what.
Yeah.
And Megan kind of said a little piece of it, but it's basically like a supplemental income that allows you, and correct me if I'm explaining this incorrectly, but it allows you to get paid pretty much to be the caregiver of your child. Is that
is correct. And it doesn't necessarily have to be you. So if you're in a certain situation where you have a child with disabilities that can qualify for IHSS, you can have someone else come into the home and they will give you a certain amount of money to actually pay for that person to be in the home. So you can have other people that are providers for the service. But with us, obviously, I was already planning to stay home and take care of Troy. So parents can be the providers. There's little stipulations with a parent being a provider, which I can talk about. But yes, so it's just basically that you are eligible to have a provider, and they will have a certain number of hours that they can come in and help take care of your child. Or your adult, if you have an adult that has disabilities. That's
and
also,
this isn't just Mito. This is any disability. This is any diagnosis that makes that is life altering. Obviously, we know Mito because that's what our children were affected by. But autism is also another diagnosis that is commonly accepted, or that you can be commonly accepted into the program. So it's not just Mito. It's a life altering diagnosis, and everyone qualifies differently. So it's no two diagnoses is equal. So it could mean $100 a month. It could mean $1,000 a month. It could mean more than that. It really just depends on your situation. And that's why it's so important for us to talk about it, because it isn't, you don't, going back to kind of like what we started this podcast with, you don't know what you don't know. And like we have a friend who didn't know about the program, and she just went through the application process and was accepted. And she has 2 young boys who are autistic, and she was accepted. So, oh my goodness.
I love that cat.
Oh my God. I do. Like, I'm literally holding him like a baby.
So
There's
cute.
so much of him. But so it's important, and I don't know. So does this? I obviously it exists for San Diego, but and I know it exists for like Fallbrook. So I don't know if it's the county, but is it everywhere, or is it depends on where you're at?
So it is something that is done all over the United States. Now, different states have different prerequisites in order to be a part of the program. Like, for instance, for California, you have to, your child, and I'm only going to speak about your child being accepted because I do not know much about the adult. So if your child is on Medi-Cal, then you can actually qualify for the program. So you have to actually be on Medi-Cal. And I think that was one of the situations with us where in order to be on Medi-Cal, there's a certain financial component that goes with that. And so we make more than what's accepted for you just to be on Medi-Cal. And so we had to get what's called a waiver from our regional center, which regional center is also another gem that I think we've mentioned before, but it's something that provides services for children, usually from birth to I think about 3 or 4 years old. And then the services are a little bit less as they get older. But it's something that if your child has a disability, you can qualify for that as well. So first we qualified for that. And then we were able to get a waiver from them. And then we were able to apply for Medi-Cal. And once we received a Medi-Cal, then we were able to provide or to apply for IHSS. So it is a process. It's definitely a process. But if you already have Medi-Cal, then you're already in a situation to where, at least in California, you can apply for it if your child has a disability. In other states, I know Medi-Cal is not called Medi-Cal, it's Medicaid, and there's different things. So I'm not sure all the stipulations, but as far as I know, it is something that is across the United States.
Let me just recap what you just said. So if you don't have if you're in California and you don't have Medi-Cal, step 1, talk to your regional center. Step 2, get the waiver for Medi-Cal if you need it. Step 3, apply for Medi-Cal, which is a very long process as well. It's months, literally months. Then once you get Medi-Cal, step 4 is now you can apply for IHSS.
Yes, because Medi-Cal, as far as I know, pays for IHSS.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, and it does take a long time. Even if you take out the Medi-Cal factor, like even if you have Medi-Cal, don't think that you're going to apply for something and it's going to happen overnight. It won't. It takes another additional months for you to get approved for that. And I believe, is there an interview process for that, or do you?
Well, it's basically you have to fill out quite a few forms that you send in, but then they do send someone out, and that person is it's basically your social worker. And what they do is they evaluate everything that you do for your child. So one of the things that I was told by another mother is write down every single thing you do for your child, how long it takes, whether it's driving them to therapy or giving them medications or, feeding them, toileting, things like that, bathing. I mean, it is literally, you sit down and you write down an entire day and how long it takes you. And that right there is the one thing that prepares you for this interview, because unfortunately, is this state-run program, and it is expensive for them. I mean, and so if you don't have it all figured out, then there might be hours that you definitely miss or that you didn't say and you don't receive, and those hours are crucial because that's what you get paid for, is the amount of hours. And or if you have a provider coming in, you'll be able to pay for more hours with that provider if it's not yourself. So you really have to I made kind of like an Excel sheet and literally put down everything that I did for Troy, and how long everything took, how long our drive took. And the first time I was interviewed, we literally, I think, got maybe 24 hours, which if anybody listening already has IHSS, that's kind of like a joke. If you have any child with any disability, that is an extremely low amount of hours. And I think I learned a lot from that first interview. I was very nice, and I was definitely allowing the person who was interviewing me to kind of take the lead. And when we came back with that amount of hours that we were approved for, and I spoke to our person at the regional center, they were like, this is absolutely unacceptable. And so we actually had to kind of go back and go to bat with IHSS and have another interview. And when we did, I'm never not nice, but I was definitely much more, okay, I know what the situation is now. This is what we do. These are the different categories. And, and I was just much more assertive on just the different things. So you have to kind of be a little bit aware of the system when that interview comes up. So that's why I said it's just really important to be prepared and write down all the things that you do. Even if you think it's something little, the 15 minutes it takes me to give Troy his vitamins, that's another, certain amount of time on their little worksheet that they are filling out. So it's important just to really be prepared.
So if you guys are listening and or watching, and you're interested in this, oversell yourself. Don't undersell yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you do matters. Everything.
Yep.
Giving them a sip of water matters. Like, put it all down. It doesn't matter what it is. Like Megan said, if you think it's ridiculous or, oh, that's not a big thing, that little thing that you think isn't big in the long run is, and it adds up. I always had a calendar with me, and I never left without my calendar. I couldn't, because we had so many things going on for Angie, and she was so little. She was only, okay, he's getting mad at me now, 19 months old. And but even driving time to get to therapy, like wherever your therapy is at, like you don't always get to have your resources come to you at home. So make sure you are also putting that down. And I don't know, I guess it's a stretch, but how many times you go get gas? Because to get to these therapy appointments, that takes time too. And if you don't have gas, you can't get to therapy. And so even if it seems ridiculous, put it down. If they don't put it in their papers, then oh well, but you reported all of it. And that's what is extremely important.
And I think too, yeah, some of the things you don't even think about. Like I was thinking, how long I didn't put down, Troy wears AFOs, which are the little orthotics on his legs. And that wasn't something I thought about, that's like putting on his shoes. It does take longer. But when his new social worker asked, she's like, oh, he wears AFOs, because they do want to see your child, obviously. And she said, oh, okay, I'm going to make sure I put down. And even that was, they put down 10, 15 minutes, with different stuff like that. And also too, which I think, I don't want to make a vast statement, but I think most of us with special needs children are pretty much okay with being open about stuff. I literally sit with Troy in the bathroom for probably a half hour to make sure that he uses the restroom, because it's so important. Constipation is a huge thing for Mito kids. And, don't be embarrassed. Don't be, just be open about everything that you do for your child, because it's truthful, it's honest. And, if you're going to be in a program like this, you deserve to be paid for, or to be able to pay someone to help your child with all the things that are necessary to take care of them. So it is very important that you just make sure that you think of everything that you do.
Yeah. And Angie, we had to give her suppositories to be able to get her to go to the bathroom. So that would be another thing that adds that to that level.
Exactly.
And I know there's probably some listeners that might think like, and I don't know, but you might not want to do it because you think it's a handout or something like that. And that is not the case. it's expensive. I mean, life is already expensive. And now you have a special needs child, and that level increases. And a lot of people don't understand that. They don't see all the special high chair, the special stroller or wheelchair or gait trainer, or like there's so many things that are going to cost money, and insurance does not cover it. You can fight with them and try and get them to cover it, but a lot of times they just say no.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that could help supplement that. You don't have to be proud. You don't have to say, well, I make good money. I'll be able to figure it out. You want this to be easy for you. And this is a resource that can make things financially a little bit easier for you and your family. And I mean, I'm not speaking for anyone, but I mean, people fight over finances without having a special needs child, you know. And it can be really hard to make ends meet. So if there is this resource, just try. And if you decide that you don't want it, then great. But if it genuinely really helps you, then there's nothing wrong with signing up for it or applying for it. Especially as your child gets older, and depending on how much of a need they have, if you want to stay at home and you can't work anymore, this is something that can help for that. You don't have to have that fear of not being able to provide for your family. And I really want to push on that being proud thing, because this doesn't have anything, like, I don't feel, like I said, and this isn't my opinion. This isn't, you don't have to share my opinion. I just think that there's a resource out there that can help you and make the day just a little bit easier, and you should take it. Why not? But yeah, that's my little soapbox.
Well, I agree as well. It's obviously made our lives a little bit easier since I stopped working. And if, for any reason I had to go back to work, then, we would be able to provide for somebody to come into the home. It's really important. And it definitely, like you said, it's out there, and it's something that if you have a disabled child, that you should look into. And you can go onto the internet, depending what state you're in. I'm pretty sure it's called the same thing in every state, but it's in-home support services. If you just look that up, you will definitely be able to find it.
I think there might also be a Facebook page for it as well.
Yes.
So definitely connect through Facebook if you have social media. That way, you can also hear from other parents and see what their trials and tribulations are with signing up for it. I did have a question, and I don't know if you know this, but yes, I know you said that you as the parent can be approved to be the caregiver. You can also have someone else be the caregiver, but can that person be anybody, or do they have to be certified?
So everyone has to be certified. Even I had to be certified. I'm glad you brought that up. So I took probably about a 4 to 6 hour class and did some fingerprinting that they do and background check. And even though I'm his parent, they still will do that. They'll do that for everyone. So then that makes you eligible to become an IHSS provider. And then obviously it was my son, so I was assigned to his case. My mom also did the same thing. So when I was still working for a few months, my mom was actually his provider, and I was able to pay her for coming in, which she would have done anyway, but it was nice to be able to, give her some extra money in order to be here with Troy. And so you do have to take a class. It's a very simple thing that you have to do. So, and I was going to say another thing, but I lost.
Well, think about it. But I want to make a point about that is, if you do feel weird about it, if you do feel like it's a handout, now it's not, because it's a job. You're being hired. And yes, you're the parent. So you don't feel like you need to be hired for that job. And you don't need to be hired to do it. But if you are already doing it and someone needs to be paid to help being a caregiver, it may as well be you.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Yes, exactly. And the only stipulation, which I'm just going to speak for California again, is that you yourself, if you are a provider, you cannot be employed more than half time anywhere else. So for instance, if I wanted to do something on the side, I could only work part-time and still be eligible to get IHSS, but you cannot have a full-time job and then also be a provider, which
That
makes
makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. Is there anything else that you think that we need to add? Or is there any other pointers?
No, I think, like I said, just making sure that you write down everything that you do for your child before the interview. And I also gave the social worker, every time they come in, I give them a copy of what I've written down. And like you said, just touching on, if you already have Medi-Cal, then you've already jumped that hurdle. If you financially are able to get Medi-Cal without going through the regional center or somewhere else to get a waiver program, then obviously you just sign up for Medi-Cal. But if you make too much money for Medi-Cal, then you'll have to do regional center. I do not know what other states require, but regional center, you'll have to get the waiver, then you'll have to sign up for Medi-Cal, and then you can apply for IHSS. So you definitely have to take those steps and just to prepare for your interview. But just knowing about this is is important so that you know that you have this resource out there. So
yeah, exactly. All right. Well, we are going to wrap up this episode. So if you were listening, we were just talking about IHSS and how to get involved with it. If you guys have any questions, please let us know. You can email us at mitopodcast@gmail. It's mitopodcast@gmail.com. Or you can find us on Facebook or on Instagram. It's the Mito Podcast, and we are also on YouTube. So if you want to watch this episode, you are more than welcome to. But we appreciate you listening. We appreciate you watching. And if you guys have any ideas for episodes or you want us to talk about anything specific, please send us a note. We would love to hear it. But thank you again for listening.
thank you.